Alright guys, let's be real. Battles are the absolute core of Total War. They're the real test of whether the game can deliver that cinematic chaos and still feel tactical in the gameplay. Some titles nail it, giving you fights that feel like they belong in a movie. Others, well, let's just say you spend most of the time yelling at your men and cursing creative assembly. So this video is a countdown of the best battles, both visually and from a gameplay perspective, in the entire Total War series, from the downright painful to the near perfect. Starting with Empire Total War, which looks like a masterpiece at first glance. Cannon smoke drifts across the wide open fields, volleys of musket fire echo through the air, and ships explode in massive naval duels. It is pure spectacle. On a visual and thematic level, few games in the series come this close to matching its sense of scale in this time period. Seeing lines of infantry exchange disciplined gunfire while cavalry maneuvers on the flanks is still insane, especially for a game from 2009. But once you start actually playing it, the illusion falls apart really fast. The AI doesn't understand how to fight in this new age of gunpowder warfare. It breaks its own formations constantly and sends cavalry straight into lines of musketeers like their Roman legionaries. Naval battles, while visually incredible, are a total coin toss. Half the time your fleet just sails in circles while the enemy drifts into a random island. It is absolute chaos. And for Total War, not the fun kind. And yet, Empire remains one of the most ambitious games Creative Assembly ever made. You can feel what it was trying to be, a proper global war simulation where tactics mattered as much as empire building. It just needed smarter opponents and tighter mechanics to hold all of it together. What we got instead was a brilliant idea buried under confusion, gorgeous to look at, dull at playing, and eternally frustrating. Empire is the ultimate what could have been of Total War battles. Now, the original Rome Total War is a legend, don't get me wrong. It defined what Total War battles looked and felt like for years. Back in 2004, it was groundbreaking. Massive armies clashing in full 3D for the first time, elephants rampaging through legions, fire arrows lighting up the sky. It was cinematic, exciting, and revolutionary. No strategy game had ever really made warfare look this big before. But let's be honest, the magic starts to fade. You start noticing pathfinding is a complete disaster. Units can't figure out how to climb walls, cavalry gets stuck at gates, infantry often takes the longest possible route to reach the enemy, and battle AI isn't much better either. I mean, sieges aren't too bad in some respects, but the pathfinding in cities just holds back the game so much. For all the chaos though, Rome does have a kind of charm that's impossible to hate, and exploits that do make it super fun to play at times. The battles are clunky, sure, but they're also full of personality and nostalgia. Watching Hastati hold a line or Greek hoplites brace for a cavalry charge across a bridge still feels epic. It's the messy, lovable start of modern Total War combat, deeply flawed but unforgettable all the same. Next up, Three Kingdoms, I have to admit, is a bit of a strange one. On paper, it should have some of the best battles in the series. Stunning visuals, detailed unit animations, and cinematic duels between legendary heroes, and to its credit, those duels do look incredible. Watching two generals carve a path through hundreds of troops feels ahistorical, but also quite fitting to the setting. But the problem is that none of it really feels impactful once you actually start playing. Units move like they're made of air, cavalry charges barely register, and melee combat often devolves into a big swirling blob with absolutely no structure. It honestly ends up becoming hard to tell who's winning or why. Everything just sort of melts together. Sieges are even worse, a repetitive slog of choke points and towers where the AI has no idea how to handle the terrain or the layout. For me, Three Kingdoms does nail the atmosphere. It's vibrant, colorful, and genuinely cinematic in a way few other Total War games are, but as far as battle mechanics go, it's definitely style over substance. You'll come for the visuals and leave immediately when your cavalry dies to peasant spearmen. Now at number 7, Rome 2 has actually come a long way since its infamous launch, and these days the battles can sometimes be good. When the stars align, the terrain is interesting, the armies are balanced, the AI decides to behave, and you can get genuinely fun cinematic engagements. But moments like that are definitely the exception and not the rule. Most of the time, the AI plays like it's heavily medicated, it parks its troops on a hill and refuses to move, or charges straight into your strongest units without a plan. Sieges are especially rough, like entire armies get stuck at the gates or forget to climb walls entirely. Melee combat too often turns into indistinguishable blobs of units whacking away until one side randomly collapses. The good news is that there are mods that can fix this. I mean, overhauls like Divide and Impera breathe new life into Rome 2's battles, making them slower, smarter, and more tactical, but out of the box, it is a totally inconsistent battle experience. Gorgeous to look at, and occasionally it does satisfy to play, but often frustrating when you realize the AI's tactical gameplay just does not exist. Now, Pharaoh and Pharaoh Dynasties is one of those experimental Total War titles that in recent years you can sort of feel the ambition under the core of, those surface mechanics. Terrain, weather, and fatigue actually matter a little bit, maybe a little too much in some areas. Units bog down in mud, morale shifts with the wind, and mechanically there is a lot here to enjoy. The unit variety is clever as well. Chariot, spearmen, and elite guard units all have distinct roles, and the armor and morale systems make engagements feel grounded and realistic. On paper, it's everything the fans have been asking for. The problem is that the execution just doesn't hold up. The balancing feels off. Some factions have really weird power spikes, like Assyria with their ridiculously overpowered and super ahistorical cavalry, and the AI still can't handle the complexity of terrain, weather, or siege warfare. Visually, it's okay, not really that striking, not the best looking Total War, but it is functional. Pharaoh's battles are a great experiment, but they don't quite hit the sweet spot between tactical depth and fun. It's a strong step forward in design ideas, especially when compared to games like Troy or Rome 2, but the actual gameplay never fully comes alive. There are so many bugs and issues that you have to deal with. You can see some good work underneath the surface, it just needed more development and design time. Now, before we continue, if you're looking to buy a game on this list, you can pick up any of these Total Wars with massive discounts on Instant Gaming. They have a great roster of other games on sale as well, like Bannerlord or Crusader Kings 3, or even the new Europa Universalis 5, all with big discounts. So if you're thinking about buying, make sure to click the link below to get your games for cheap and support the channel at the same time. Now let's get back to the video. At number 5, Medieval 2 is where the series really found its original rhythm. The battles feel grand, weighty, and surprisingly tactical for their age. Cavalry charges hit like an absolute truck, archers can completely change the flow of combat, and morale plays a massive role in whether your army stands or shatters. Every engagement feels like a story, whether you're Crusader knights thundering into desert warriors, Mongol hordes surrounding a doomed castle, or a desperate last stand on a bridge. That said, of course, there are still plenty of rough edges, otherwise it wouldn't be in the middle of this list. Pathfinding is a nightmare, sieges are barely controlled chaos, units occasionally forget how to move through gates and other kind of, clipping issues. The AI can be smart one moment and then completely brain dead the next, but even with those flaws, Medieval 2 battles have that something modern Total Wars often lack, which is personality. They're unpredictable, scrappy, and always entertaining. And for me, there's a really good balance between unit types that feels just right. Heavy infantry, archers, light infantry, cavalry, all have clear strengths and weaknesses. You have to think about morale, fatigue, positioning, armor, weaponry constantly, which keeps every fight tense. It's not perfect, but it is very, very memorable. The kind of game where you still remember that impossible battle you somehow won 15 years later. Medieval 2 might be a little bit nostalgic for me, which is why it's a little bit higher on this list, but honestly, if you take all the pros and cons, it does stack up pretty well, especially compared to more modern titles. Next up, at number 4, we have Attila, where the battles are an absolute spectacle, brutal, cinematic, and packed with atmosphere. Every clash feels desperate, as if the world is crumbling around you. Flames spread across the battlefield in beautiful, realistic ways. Arrows streak across the smoke. The soldiers fight to the last man in ruined cities. It's the most apocalyptic the series has ever felt, and that sense of tension makes every single battle feel amazing to get into and play. And the mechanics are pretty deep too. I mean, fatigue, morale, terrain, everything matters, forcing you to think about every decision you make. Cavalry flanking actually works and feels really impactful. Missile units can absolutely tear apart enemy troops, and the way weather affects visibility or movement adds a real layer of strategy. When all of Attila's systems come together, few Total War games feel this intense or rewarding. The only thing holding it back is its sieges. They do look stunning, don't get me wrong, and there are some good moments here, but the AI definitely does struggle with them, especially with cavalry. They just don't work. Attila delivers some of the most satisfying and cinematic battles in the series. Every fight feels like a desperate struggle for survival, but the sieges really do hold it back. Now, getting into the top 3 games of this list, we have to start with Thrones of Britannia, which took Attila and basically made it perfect in every way. The battles here are sharp, grounded, and surprisingly tactical. All the issues that Attila had, especially in the sieges, were completely fixed and made absolutely glorious. Units respond well, formations hold their shape, engagements have this deliberate, weighty pacing. You can feel the push and pull of shield walls grinding against each other, and when cavalry finally breaks through, it is genuinely thrilling. And like I said, where it really shines is in the sieges. I mean, if you want to play Total War for siege warfare, this is absolutely the game. Creative Assembly clearly learned from Attila's AI struggles and actually fixed them here. The enemy attacks smartly, uses multiple entry points, it doesn't get stuck anywhere, pathfinding is really good, defending feels intense rather than tedious, and attacking is a proper tactical challenge instead of an exercise in frustration. Compared to the other games in the series, it's definitely not the flashiest, but there's something so refreshingly grounded about that. Thrones of Britannia might have a really small scope on the campaign, but when it comes to clean, well-balanced, and satisfying combat, it punches way above its weight. Now, next up, we have Napoleon, which is basically the Thrones of Britannia treatment of Empire. Every volley, every charge, every cannon blast feels deliberate and absolutely devastating. Line battles are tense duels of timing and positioning. Wait too long and you'll be torn apart by musket fire. Charge too early and you'll be shredded by grape shot. It's easily one of the most cinematic and rewarding experiences in the entire series, especially with mods like Field Command Napoleon or NTW3 that refine the pacing and realism. And of course, the battle AI, while not perfect, at least tries to play the game. It forms firing lines, maneuvers artillery effectively, and actually uses cavalry to flank and disrupt. That alone makes the battlefield feel alive compared to other titles, but especially Empire. There's a clear reason why fans are still talking about Napoleon's battles more than a decade after release. They're balanced, beautiful, and brutally efficient. Every fight feels like a test of nerve and timing, and when the smoke clears, it always feels completely earned. In a series built around massive, messy chaos, Napoleon is the rare game where everything in the battles just works. And finally on this list, we have Shogun 2 and of course Fall of the Samurai, the gold standard for Total War battles. The perfect mix of tactical depth, clean design, and sheer visual beauty. Every engagement feels like a perfectly choreographed clash of discipline and chaos. The AI here doesn't just exist to die in front of you, it reacts, flanks, it retreats with purpose, it reforms, battles unfold with a natural rhythm, archers soften the enemy lines, cavalry circles for that perfect charge, and samurai crash together in a test of patience and precision. Balance between unit types, I think, is a really good reason why Shogun 2 works so well. No single unit really dominates that much. Victory always comes with coordination and timing and player experience. Terrain matters, of course, morale swings dramatically, and even over a decade later, it's one of the few games where the AI can still surprise you, where you actually respect your opponent in a Total War game for once. And of course, you can't talk about Shogun 2 at the top of this list without mentioning Fall of the Samurai, which somehow refines the formula even further. The introduction of rifles, artillery, naval bombardment, taking control of artillery as well in first person, all could have broken the game, but instead they elevated it. Gun duels are tense and satisfying, artillery feels devastating, and yet melee still matters as well. Charging into smoke and gunfire remains just as thrilling as ever. It's a masterclass in blending old Total War and new Total War combat styles without losing what the heart of the series series is all about. Essentially, these two games, Shogun 2 and Fall of the Samurai, are the absolute peak pinnacle of battle gameplay in the series. And if it's the best that you're looking for, this is it. So overall, across all the highs and lows of the series, one thing is clear. Total War battles have evolved, stumbled, and reinvented themselves more times than we can count. The musket lines of Napoleon reward patience and discipline, the muddy shield walls of Thrones of Britannia favor timing and grit, and the flaming siege towers of Attila still deliver unmatched spectacle. Total War's battle design has always been about finding the balance between realism and fun. Sometimes it nails it, as in the top 5 games in this series probably, and sometimes it misses it completely, especially if you're in the bottom 5. And that's essentially it for today, guys. This has been my top 10 list of my favorite Total War battles in the series. Let me know what your favorites are in the comment section below, if you agree with this list or not, and either way, I really hope you enjoyed this video. As always, subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this, and thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.